Hey, before we get started, here's a little reminder to let you know that 2022 is already shaping up to be one hell of a year.
She said yes. She said yes. Yo, we need to follow up with some of these couples 9 months from now. You know what I'm saying? That's a show I am so down to host.
Get the fuck out of my face. They're kissing with the fucking masks on!
What an imbecile. What an ultra-maroon.
On a recent Joe Rogan podcast, episode number 1756, Harvard medical lecturer John Abramson said this.
The primary function of the drug companies is to make money for their investors. And we've got to get over the illusion that their purpose is to serve our health. Their purpose is to make money.
What I want to know is, can you get a little conflict of interest with that? Of course you can get a little conflict of interest.
CBS Health Watch, sponsored by Pfizer. Anderson Cooper 360. Brought to you by Pfizer.
ABC News Nightline. Brought to you by Pfizer. CNN Tonight. Brought to you by Pfizer.
This weather report brought to you by Pfizer.
And now a CBS Sports Update brought to you by Pfizer. Meet the Press. Data download. Brought to you by Pfizer.
Welcome back to the High Impact Flicks channel. Let's go ahead and roll the intro.
Hey guys, before I get into today's video, here's a shout out for this video's sponsor. When the shit hits the fan and the power goes out, one of the things you're going to need is an ultra bright flashlight and a power bank to charge your devices. This is the indoor-outdoor light bug work light. It's got a solar panel to turn sunlight into storable, usable energy, or you can charge it with a regular wall outlet. The adjustable bracket allows you to hang it, hold it in your hand, or get the perfect light angle on a table. It comes in handy for car repair, fishing, hunting, and camping. And check this out. I fully charged this thing, turned it on, and left it on the counter, and it shined for over 5 hours. Grab a couple of them for family and friends. Your link is in the description.
The primary function of the drug companies is to make money for their investors. And we've got to get over the illusion that their purpose is to serve our health. Their purpose is to make money.
We've talked before about Pfizer, and
that's so funny because I don't know when, let's see, what is this? I don't know what podcast this is, what number it is, but the Malone one was number 1757. So I don't know if this one was before or after, but it's so funny because when Joe Rogan was talking to Malone, he was acting shocked about how much power and influence the big pharma companies had and how much this looks like a giant conspiracy against the people to force people out of their freedom. But he already knows this, so why act surprised about it?
What was the one drug where they had the largest settlement ever with the largest penalty ever? It was like,
Pfizer. It was Bextra, an arthritis drug.
And what did they do?
So I can't tell you. I know, but I can't tell you. I spent about 10 years, a little more than 10 years in litigation as an expert in the national drug cases. And when I served as an expert.
Okay, so here we go. This is 1756. This is right before Joe Rogan interviews Robert Malone. So Joe Rogan is acting after what this guy, John Abramson, said, acting surprised that the big pharma companies have so much influence and so much power. It's just really a lot of strange things, a lot of strange red flags going off all over the place.
I got to see all the documents. I did that in the case of Pfizer. Pfizer's behavior was, in my opinion, so outrageous that I picked up the phone and called the Department of Justice and said, I know a lot about this drug, but I can't tell you because I've signed a confidentiality agreement as an expert. So the Department of Justice and the FBI sent me a subpoena and said, you must come with your computer.
There's some double and triple dog psychological operations right there. The Department of Justice, which is really, they've shown themselves time and time again to be the Department of Injustice, and the FBI. Remember, the FBI, just for one example, was responsible in the 1990s for killing 76 people, burning them alive in their own house. 20 of those were children. That's the FBI and the DEA that did that. One of the biggest terror threats and terror actions that ever happened on American soil was wrought at the hands of the FBI and the DEA. So he's talking about the FBI and the Department of Injustice subpoenaing him so that he can give a testimony. FBI, CIA, DEA, Big Pharma, government, federal government, they're all on the same team.
And tell us what they did wrong. And I did. 6 months later, I read in the newspaper that the Department of Justice had found the company had committed a felony, and they were dealt the largest fine in U.S. history, the largest criminal fine in U.S. history. So I know what happened, but I can't tell you.
You can't tell me because of the confidentiality agreement.
Yep.
Wow.
And let's talk about that fine. This is just, you can still, this is still on a Google search. Just open a Google search bar and say Pfizer criminal history. It says Pfizer has been a habitual offender, persistently engaging, current tense, present tense, in illegal and corrupt marketing practices, bribing physicians. Malone brought that out in Joe Rogan podcast 1757. And suppressing adverse trial results. Why would you do that if you're an honest company? Why would you do that if you have a good, wholesome, and safe and effective product? You wouldn't. They're cooking the books. They're constantly cooking the books. They're constantly being caught cooking the books. In 2009, CNN claimed that Pfizer was a company that's too big to nail. They've gotten so big we can't do anything about it, and we know they're fraudulent. Since 2002, the company and its subsidiaries have been assessed $3 billion in criminal convictions, civil penalties, and jury awards. They've already gone through. They've already been declared guilty. And yet this is the company that mainstream media is constantly funneling us into. Hey, you lose your freedoms if you don't bow down to this fraudulent, criminal, habitual offender.
And it's even more serious because the drug companies own the data from their clinical trials. The peer reviewers and the editors of the medical journals don't get to see the data. They have to take the word of the drug companies that they've presented the data accurately and reasonably completely. And you only get to see it in litigation, 5 years later.
So the data is
or in the case of the FDA, 55 years later.
Only held by the pharmaceutical companies. They release their analysis of the data?
Correct.
And then the peer reviewers do everything based on the analysis of the data that was released by the pharmaceutical companies.
That's correct.
That's insane.
That's insane. And docs don't understand it. They don't understand that they're getting manipulated.
And this guy, John Abrams, MD, is a Harvard Medical School lecturer, national drug litigation expert, and author. And he submitted to a Big Pharma test in order to do the Joe Rogan podcast. Because all the guests, according to Joe Rogan, have to take the test or they can't do the podcast. So they're talking about how bad and how criminal and how habitually offensive these people have been, these big pharma companies have been to the American public and to the company, the public of the world at large. And yet they're still going to require guests to submit to a big farm guy test. It's outrageous.
Hey guys, we know with the way things have been going, it can get really interesting really quick. So make sure you and your family have a long-term storable food supply. Support the channel and get $50 off with my link in the description while you still can.